I discovered my ex-wife was feeding our kids turpentine daily and had to fight to protect them, gain custody and help them heal from the trauma. May 1st, 2021 on r/relationship_advice. I found this out, like I do most things about life with their mother, through the kids, M7 and F5, as communication has been pretty much non-existent between the ex and I since our split 6 years ago. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I don't ever press my kids for information. I've worked very hard to establish an uninhibited, open, no topic is off-limits type of relationship with my kids. Even though I've only got them every other weekend, I want them to feel comfortable enough to fully express themselves and speak their mind freely around me. This has led to several discoveries about certain aspects of their life that their mother has asked them not to reveal to me, something I'm very much against. I don't believe any child should have to hold secrets between their parents. It isn't their responsibility and is something I would never ask of them. That being said, they've come out with nuggets of wisdom such as we shouldn't be drinking tap water because the government puts chemicals in there that makes us docile and obedient. Santa isn't real. But Jesus is and the Bible is 100% fact. Controversial topic, I understand. And most recently that the government says turpentine is poisonous but it is actually good for you. What the hell do I do here? If I speak to my ex about this, or even let slip that I know it's going on, she isn't going to have an honest conversation about it with me and I fear that she'll just press the kids even harder to keep things from me. I don't want their heads filled with this rubbish but I feel so powerless to stop this. All I can do is try to teach them to think critically but that is only going to be so effective when they're getting told all this nonsense is fact. Help. Edit. I spoke to my children about it and recorded the conversation to ensure there was no confusion about what was being said. They were being fed a spoonful of turpentine every day by their nana for the past 4 weeks while they were all away on holidays, but there is zero chance my ex wasn't aware this was happening. Definitely turpentine. 100% pure gum turpentine. My boy said the bottle read. The distilled stuff, he said. They even started singing that Mary Poppins song, "A spoonful of sugar helps the turpentine go down." Feel like I'm in an alternate timeline. Thank you everyone for being so helpful. I appreciate it so much. Edit. The talk screen won't be happening until we get a referral. Poisons Hotline has no literature on hand for chronic exposure to turpentine, let alone in children, but the kids don't seem symptomatic. We will be visiting either a GP or the hospital first thing tomorrow for a full checkup, and a report will be made separately to that of the medical mandatory report. I don't really see a scenario playing out where CPS isn't getting involved here, and I can't not have my kids medically assessed knowing that this has been going on. Currently preparing for the shitstorm that's bound to ensue. Comments. Deleted user. Sorry, but you found out your ex-wife is poisoning your kids and your response is to get on Reddit instead of taking your kids to the hospital and contacting authorities. Hopefully this is as fake as it seems. OOP, ex-wife. The kids seemed asymptomatic. Had I not been made aware of this I probably would never have known anything was up. That being said, my mother is a nurse and we did have the kids looked at. Yes, I came to Reddit as one source among several for guidance because I had no F*** king clue what to do about this or even what my options were. I try not to act rash or emotionally impulsive when it comes to my children. I try to weigh up my options. My father has a muddy history, so even though he's not the same person he was 15 years ago, a CPS investigation has potential to forcefully alienate my children from their grandparents. That's just one example of what factors into this. I wish this were fake. Deleted user. What the fuck? Asymptomatic? Dude, they've told you she's poisoning them. You should have immediately taken them to the hospital, regardless of whether you can see symptoms. I don't care if your mom is a nurse, she can't run tests by looking at them. Anyway, I still am not convinced this is real, but if it is, what you just said about your dad makes this all more confusing and sketchy. Take your kids to the hospital and seek legal help. OP, we spoke to the hospital man, we called ahead. There was literally nothing they were prepared to do for us other than what we had already done. They wouldn't run tests unless the kids were exhibiting symptoms or they had a referral, even after telling them what was going on. The nurse was very apologetic but it is what it is. Best they could offer was a place 2 hours away that wouldn't open until tomorrow anyway. I know what you're saying, but it just isn't that simple. And yeah, I understand that seems sketchy. I guess it kind of is. There's no legal help I could possibly get on a Sunday evening and no way we could move things forward without rushing into it. We are going through everything tomorrow, properly and thoughtfully. Fast walking short guy Jesus Christ. Record some evidence, send it to the cops, and have your ex imprisoned for child endangerment at the very least. This type of potato is going to start feeding them fucking bleach or urine sooner than later, not even joking. She is a dangerous level of stupid that your kids should not be forced to suffer. It is your responsibility to take action to protect them from her. OOP. Unfortunately, the only evidence I have is a second-hand verbal account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mother, his grandmother, who is a career nurse, who promptly told me what was going on. She's 50 shades deep into crazy conspiracy theories herself and even she was mortified upon hearing this. My ex won't say or admit to anything and I don't trust her to be honest if her custody arrangement is on the line, it's all just conjecture at this point. Fast walking short guy hire a private eye. Get evidence, it's your responsibility as a parent to protect your children. You can't be so passive. Do something. OOP, I agree, it is my responsibility. I have zero intention of being passive about this, I just see my current options hitting a lot of dead ends. That's why I've come here. If I'm going to go the legal route I want to move it through clean. Calculated. No room for error. He said, she said BS won't even get me a seat in the courtroom. Private investigator could be something worth following up though. Thank you. Fish guts cake. Those poor kids. Good idea picking this idiot to mate with. OP. Yeah, look, I've got no good defense for that. Changed a lot after she got her ring though. There's a reason I'm not still with her. May 2nd, 2021 on ER Legal Advice and ROS Legal. So I just found out through my kids that my ex-wife has been feeding them turpentine mixed with sugar or honey as a way to warm them, and also been using it topically to treat mosquito bites. They are 7M and 5F, reading up on what it does if you ingest it, because who the hell would ever think it's a good idea to drink paint thinner as medicine? It can be devastating and it really doesn't take a whole lot to mess you up, especially if you're a child. Think, 1 tablespoon could potentially be enough to change your life. I don't think talking to the ex is going to yield any results, and realistically I don't even expect her to be honest about it anyway. My only evidence so far is the secondhand account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mom his grandma and she went and told me. Do I have any legal options here? Should I be collecting evidence, and if so, what kind? I honestly don't know what to do. I can't have my kids being fed literal poison, and to top it off they were saying, yeah, the government tells us it's poison but it's actually good for you. This isn't the first time they've come out with little nuggets of conspiracy-soaked wisdom like this. Tap water makes you docile and obedient sort of stuff, but this one is truly terrifying. They were meant to go back to their mother today, but I've got them in my care until next weekend due to an undisclosed emergency that my ex sprung on me about an hour ago. Never mind that I'm starting a new job tomorrow and wasn't prepared in any way to look after them for a week with no notice. But please, if anyone here can give me a few tips or pointers, I would be so grateful. I'm stressing pretty bad about this. I don't know what to do. Edit, I'm located in Victoria, Australia, if that makes any difference to the situation. May 2nd, 2021 on RR Ask Docs. So for the last 4 or so weeks my kids, 7M and 5F, have been ingesting a spoonful of turpentine every day and been using it topically to treat mosquito bites. 100% gum turpentine. My boy said the bottle read, paint thinner. I've questioned them about it and I have zero doubt this was happening. Now I've wanted to book in for a tox screen and blood work but would have to travel 2 hours to get it done, the only other option being police and CPS, both unfavorable options, or seeing a GP. What am I in for here? What damage would chronic ingestion of turpentine cause a 7-year or 5-year child? What are the things I should look out for? Would terps even show up in a screen in such a small volume? And if there's anyone here from Victoria, Australia, would a GP be able to help initiate a tox screen? May 2nd, 2021 on Art of Toxicology. The contents of this post were not able to be recovered. However, this comment was deemed relevant, as it has information about turpentine therapy. Solomon Gilbert, MOD. I'm sorry to hear of this happening. Usually, we wouldn't allow medical advice requests, but this is an exception. Turpentine has been touted as an alternative medicine cure-all, as has been amplified by misinformation on the internet. Please seek immediate medical assistance from a trained healthcare professional and take any discussions surrounding medical advice here with an enormous pinch of salt. That said, this subject is very important to discuss and could help others who may have come across similar cases. OOP, my apologies. I will admit I didn't carefully look through the rules of this sub before posting. I did stumble across this particular school of thought this evening, unfortunately, whilst researching the effects of turpentine ingestion. It saddens me to learn of its existence, but honestly I'm not as surprised nor shocked as I feel I should be. Understandably, advice from strangers on the internet will never be a credible substitute for a trained professional opinion. Sorry guys. But I do appreciate your concern and the willingness of those who helped. Thank you. May 3rd, 2021 in a comment on the R Ask Docs post. Update on the situation. The kids have been medically assessed. They've had blood work done, testing for liver and kidney function, as well as any other abnormalities, and have undergone some minor testing. Thankfully, everything has come back clear and they seem to be happy and in good health, apart from my daughter being a little upset about being jabbed with needles. There were, however, some very concerning statements made by my kids to the doctors who screened them, both with and without any family present. Everything said has been transcribed and documented in their discharge papers. CPS has since been informed of the situation. The situation has been reported to the police and a medical release statement has been filed with them. They told me they would remain in contact with CPS and wait for their lead. The kids are legally staying within the care of myself and my family until further notice from Child Services. At this point in time, I've had no contact with my ex since this all came about. I have a tip on a great family law legal representative whom I will contact in the very near future to discuss my steps moving forward, and about making a claim for primary custodial care. My family fully supports this decision and we are all still incredibly shocked about this whole scenario. I am on the verge of having an absolute meltdown, but things actually seem okay for now. My kids are safe. I couldn't be more grateful for how supportive my family and friends have been over the last couple of days. Thank you to everyone who gave me their advice and support. I appreciate every one of you. Please do not feed your children turpentine. UDG. I can pretty much guarantee that if you're buying bottles labeled 100% pure gum spirits, or whatever, they look like this rather than this, and the warning label basically comes with a wink and a nod for free OOP. Actually, it looked like this. Literally has poison impressed down the side of the plastic bottle, complete with all the expected warning labels. Straight from the paint section at Bunnings. Update as of September 2023, September 22nd, 2023 on his profile, 2 years after the original posts, 2 days after the Boru post. Just an update on things since everything went down and maybe provide a little clarity on a few key details. Not that it's necessary to me that you believe my story, Reddit being what it is and all, but bear with me as I haven't really spoken about the topic with anyone outside of my partner in a very, very long time. There will be a few additional details that won't be mentioned for discretionary reasons and active actions currently in place. Not very brief. Sorry. I'll start by stating that the kids have been in my full care since that first post and are very happy and healthy. The mother has placed the entirety of blame on the grandmother and remains steadfast in that stance to this very day. The month prior to my post they spent camping as a family, the kids and their mom's immediate family. They spent that entire time in her care and there is no way she wasn't privy to what was happening. Every goddamn day. The kids had a fucking song to sing about it. All substantiated in statements taken from them. So as a few have speculated, yes, this happened in regional Victoria. A couple hours from Melbourne. The hospital here could have taken the kids in for screening through ER but they didn't have the facilities to actually test the blood work on site. The turnaround for a result I was told would have been a few days, possibly longer, as it had to get sent off. Alternatively, I could just wait until the following day to make the trip to the nearest facility that was capable of producing same-day results. We took that option. The kids were triaged the following day through ER. Tested for organ functionality, blood work came back clean. They were privately spoken to and assessed by on-site well-being officers, or whatever their title, and CPS was contacted through the hospital and a case opened. Note, yes, we do call them child protection here even though they operate under the DFFH banner. But so does Community Housing and Disability Support, in tangent with NDIS, so do with that information as you will. It's a broad department. We left with the medical reports which included statements given by the children and holy fuck were they were being fed some wild facts about the world. That night I made an informal statement at the local police station stating what the situation was and the actions taken, just so they had it on record. For those tracking the chronology of all this, we are roughly 30 HRS into the timeline from me first finding out. CPS conducted several interviews over the next month with all parties involved as well as a house call to my residence. Not sure how extensively they interviewed the mom. They concluded the children unfit to be in the mother's care but were comfortable in closing their case should they remain with me full time. Surprisingly, there was no legal order put in place. Apparently they are happy to move on from a situation once comfortable with the results. Found a good law firm and started the legal process, which has been very slow due to a, unsurprising, lack of cooperation. Essentially though, we have restricted the mother's access to supervised visitation and removed her parental right as a legal actor regarding medical decisions. She has only seen them a handful of times in the 2 years following despite constant efforts to facilitate visitation. The kids have had therapy and I've spent many hours talking to them over the last 2 years helping them navigate their way through this. They'll have a lot of questions they'll expect answers for when they're older, I'm sure. Currently, we have managed to secure scheduled visitation with the mother through a professional contact center which facilitates supervised visits. It has been a fucking wild ride but we are incredibly lucky and happy to have the strong family unit we currently do, including my partner and her daughter who have been next to us through most of this process. Please teach your kids it's safe to be honest and open with you. Now to the next story, story 2. I ended my relationship after my ex secretly bought an $87K truck and now he has also returned it. I'm very annoyed, he didn't even speak to me about it. We had so many discussions about moving in together, getting married and then he goes and purchases a truck $2K more than his yearly salary. If you're asking how a truck can be $87K, that's the price you get when you put every addition you want on it. He showed me the truck expecting me to be excited and I was livid. When he bought this truck, we were only a month from moving in together. We got into a bad argument where he told me it was his money and he could do whatever he wanted with it. So I said fine and I told him I'm not comfortable moving in with him anymore. I asked my landlord if my apartment was still available and if I could renew my lease and they said yes. Now my BF is saying he can't afford his place and his truck. I don't feel bad. You should have thought of that before buying something so expensive without talking to your GF of 2 years. I have had some of his friends GF reach out to me and say I should support him and one even says that I'm not loyal and this shows I wouldn't support him if we were married since I run away when finances get bad. That's bullshit. He didn't lose his job or get hurt. He bought an expensive item without discussing it. I have been trying to get him to return the truck because it's already affecting his finances badly. He has only had this truck for 2 weeks and he is worried that in the next month or two, he won't be able to cover all the expenses he usually has. This past weekend, we had another argument and I think our relationship is going to end. I'm not helping him pay for this truck and I'm not moving in with him. I have asked for a break and will be thinking about what to do. Edit. I appreciate the different opinions everyone has given me. I have a lot to think about. To answer 2 questions, no, he doesn't need the truck. He works from home and if he has to check in at work, he has an office. Also, his friends and their girlfriends know about this issue because he asked for their views when we went to a get-together last week. Only 2 GFS reached out to me to tell me I wasn't being supportive. The others have minded their business. Comments. Comment 1. Good job recognizing a bad situation when you see one. This dude fully expected you to supplement his lifestyle after moving in together. All his money would have gone to paying that truck, leaving you stuck with the lion's share of the bills. And that's why he's panicking now. Stay in your own apartment OP. Comment 2. And he had the audacity to say that it was his money and he could do what he wanted with it knowing full well he would have to live out of the truck if OP didn't supplement for him. Really tells you what he thinks about OP's money. That it's his money too. Entitled ass. I would dump him so hard. Comment 3. Reeks of my money is mine but your money is ours. Dump any moron who spends $1,700 a month on a 5-year loan for a toy while being unable to make rent. Update, 6 days later. Yay, so I broke up with him mainly because I realized we aren't financially compatible. Before I go into what happened, I do want to say something. I understand we weren't married but we were both moving together into a new place and had several discussions about this move and our plans for the future, including marriage. For the people private messaging me saying it's his money and he can do whatever he wants or, you're only 2 years into a relationship, you're not a wife. I know that, and I have never asked what is in his bank account or told him what to do financially. I'm aware it is his money, but I also know his financial situation and he was making decisions without my input that, if we were to stay together, would not only affect him but also our relationship and our financial situation for years to come. I will die on this hill. This is not okay, and if it's okay for you, that's fine, but for me, if we make a financial plan and you make a huge decision without me, I won't be okay with it, and that's a big reason why I backed out of moving into a new apartment with him. I would have never made a decision like this without his input at all. The main reason why we decided to move in together was to take the next step in our relationship but also to pay down our debts. I now have $22,000 debt from student loans and a car. When I met him though, it was around $60,000 and I was basically living on credit cards. Within the first couple of months of us dating, I saw how hard he worked, and with a salary of $85,000, he was making huge progress in paying off his loans and credit cards. On my end at the time, I was only making $50,000. I honestly saw his work ethic and was like wow, and got serious about my debt. I got a second part-time job where I was making $32,000 a year, bringing my salary to $82,000. I did that so that I could pay off my debts faster, but also so that we could be on equal footing when we moved in together and he didn't have to pay significantly more in living expenses than me when he had more debt. We did a complete budget months before we moved in together and realized that we would each have $700 extra a month to put towards our own individual budgets. This is why the purchase of this truck was so surprising to me. We had planned this move for months. We had a budget and he destroyed that plan with the truck. If he wanted a new car, there are plenty of cars he could have gotten that would have fit into the $700 monthly surplus he had. Anyway, for the past few days before we broke up, he tried to show me that this truck was a good financial purchase and we could still move in together. He told me that he had actually budgeted for this and could show me how he could afford this. I wanted to hear him out, so I went to his place and he had 2 budgets. He said he had been thinking of getting this truck for some time and he had worked out a budget beforehand. He showed me the first budget, and after his truck, insurance, expenses, and his debts he was left with $115 for the month. I noticed with the first budget, he didn't include groceries, his hobbies, going out, or even gas for his car. I asked him how $115 was enough to live off of for an entire month. I asked him how he could afford all of this and his truck and if he planned to give up some things. He said no, he didn't plan to give up anything and that he could make everything work in his budget. I asked him what if he had an emergency or needed gas for his truck, and he just kept saying he would work it out without explaining how. After I saw the first budget, I asked to see the documents for the car, and that's how I found out the truck price was $95,000 total after taxes, registration and fees. He traded in his reliable 2003 Toyota and all his savings to get a loan at 14% for 72 months. His monthly payment is now $1,966 and insurance is $573. He also still has student loans which are significant. I kept telling him $115 left over monthly wasn't enough. That's when he showed me his second budget, which had a combined higher monthly income. I asked him if he was getting a second job and he said due to his job relying on him to be on call, he couldn't. I asked where the income was coming from and this man said, well, you're getting a raise soon. I froze because I had mentioned this raise once months ago. My first job is my career job and I work in a field where when you hit certain milestones, you get a pay bump. In September, if my raise is approved, I will go from $50,000 to $80,000. And with my second job, my total yearly income will be $112,000. But getting the raise isn't a guarantee. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 months before trying again. When he said that, I was quiet, and then I said, so you planned a budget that included additional income that I wouldn't get for at least 6 months and income that I might not even get in September. He said when I got my raise, the ratio of what he would pay would decrease and he would have more disposable income. I asked him why it was okay for him to plan budgets with my income, but yet I had no say in how he spent his. He couldn't answer that. I told him I had no issue with paying more bills if I got a raise, but the fact that he banked on that, didn't discuss it, and now expects me to be okay with this is ridiculous. I also said there's no way I wouldn't be paying more with the first budget because he wouldn't have been able to survive on $115. I told him he didn't communicate and this is on him because he made huge financial plans without discussing anything. Finally, I told him I would never have done any of this without going to him first because I thought we were a team that was building something. I ended things the next day and he has been trying to reach out, but I'm not interested. He has financially crippled himself with this truck. If with my income now he could barely make it, he sure isn't making it on his own. I really hope that things work out for him and he is able to keep his truck and recover, but I'm not paying the consequences for such a massive financial mistake that is going to hugely affect him for years to come. If I were to stay, this financial decision affects me as well and would continue to affect both of us for years. Again, this is different from becoming ill or losing a job. He chose this and refuses to budge and fix it. I now realize we are not financially compatible and that's okay, and I wish him the best. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the support. I don't hate my ex and I really hope he's able to recover from this. It was such a learning lesson for me in how one mistake can ruin you financially. It has made me even more cautious but also determined to keep working towards a better financial future for myself. Comments. Comment 1, you are very smart. I have a wife like you and we are going to retire comfortably because of that. Comment 2, people who will give her grief over this either have no idea how marriage is supposed to work or are bad with their finances. Financial incompatibility is a huge deal in relationships, and she is being incredibly mature here. Comment 3. All I have to ask is, how are you handling this with so much grace? I would be pissed if my ex, who I was so emotionally invested in, pulled this on me. It's not just that he made an irresponsible decision, it's the fact that he thought he could leech off you and your money to pay for it and somehow blindside you to get away with that. You don't badmouth him a single time and did the right thing immediately, break up, and have already accepted that you both are incompatible. I'm in awe of how decisive and yet non-aggressive you were. I wish I could be that way. OP, to answer your question about why I'm not badmouthing him, it's because I'm sad. I'm sad about what he did to himself and that I had to leave because he isn't seeing how bad this is. I'm sad that just a few months ago, I was planning on living together in a life and now that's gone. Most of all, I'm sad for him. He was doing so well and he rubbed off on me immensely in terms of paying off debt and watching your spending. I'm sad that he threw away all his hard work. Dumping on him even more isn't worth it because when he realizes this mistake, it will be so bad for him. I don't see a point to do it, but I'm not judging anyone who would in these circumstances. New update. 7 months later. Update. I posted a few months ago about ending my relationship with my ex who bought an $87K truck without telling me. Going ahead with that decision means that I paid off my student loans this past month. He also returned the truck. Hi everyone. So I posted a few months about a situation I was dealing with my ex and him buying a car without telling me. I really doubted myself when I first made my first post because I had received such strong negative reactions from other people about me wanting to back out of the move. I appreciate the comments I got not only on the posts but through the messages as well. It really helped solidify for me that these feelings I had about the situation shouldn't be ignored. So thank you guys for responding because it saved me financially. Looking back at the situation now months later, I can see that I was being set up to be financially abused. When I broke up with my ex, I thought that we were financially incompatible and that unfortunately it took this large purchase to see it. But I can see now, that's not the case. My ex made a plan in his head and what made sense to him was for me to pay most of the expenses and he thought this was okay and that I should be okay with it too. Even though I can see the reality of what he was trying to do, I can't hate my ex because he helped start me on this path of looking at my finances. I remember when we first started dating and I went to pay for an item I was getting and my card declined, and without batting an eye, even though it was a little embarrassing, I took out another card and paid. I was used to this happening every once in a while, because I was literally living paycheck up to paycheck. I'm not putting down anyone where that's the case. But in my situation then, I was living way above my means. I would justify every single one and get it, and I thought because I was making minimum payments and on time, I wasn't as bad as the next person. When the situation with my card happened, after we got back to my ex's car, he kindly asked if this type of thing happens all the time and I told him sometimes, and he basically gave me advice. He did not try to force me to stop spending. He asked me to track my purchases and recommended a few apps. The first 2 months that we were seeing each other, he would encourage me every other day or every once in a while to just track what I spent, to shop like I usually did, but to track everything. Being able to see how much I was spending, especially when I broke it down into categories, was astounding. There was one month I spent $68 on bagels. It wasn't for work. It wasn't for other people. It was me stopping at a bagel place every morning and getting a bagel. I would sometimes get variations, which is why the bagels cost so much. Once I realized how much I was spending on stupid things, my ex helped me make a plan that would work for me, and that plan has continued to consistently work. I have added to it and changed things or tweaked things as my financial status has continued to improve, and so far, so good. This is why I don't have any bad feelings about my ex. He never pushed for me to pay my bills in front of him. He never saw credit card statements on apps, nothing. He only kept encouraging me to look at my finances and fix them. He helped give me the foundation to start to manage my finances, and I thought in my head that we were on the same page. And because he was such a stickler for finances and he was so frugal, that is why this truck purchase was such a surprise to me. It was unplanned, not discussed, was a large amount of money, and just knowing the general view of how much debt he had, I know without a doubt that there was no way he could afford this truck. I'm not trying to paint my ex as a saint. I am explaining why he had such a positive impact on me financially. So when the truck purchase happened, and he refused to budge, I honestly was shocked, and seeing how bad this situation was, I had to walk away. It's been about 6 months since everything's happened and I'm doing very well. I recently paid off my student loans last month. I now only have my car left, so 12 grand left to pay. I also have a small savings. Because of that, I have changed the focus and I'm putting the majority of my income now towards my car. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm definitely living within my means and I'm okay with that. The last 2 things I'm updating on are my raise and my ex's truck. I had a few people message me about the raise, and unfortunately I did not get it due to a big mistake I made on a project. Once I realized the mistake, I knew that it would jeopardize things for my raise because I had made the mistake so close to my evaluation and I didn't get the raise. But I fixed the mistake, and when I get reevaluated after 3 months, I am hopeful I will get it this time. Losing the possibility of the raise made me realize even more that I had made the right decision, because I would be so screwed right now if I hadn't ended my relationship. With my ex, we have spoken once and that is when we broke up. I cut communication completely, because he was still trying to fix things without addressing the truck and the fact that he was keeping it. I know from a person close to him that actually 4 months after we broke up, he did a voluntary repossession. I also know the truck is gone, because he deleted all the pictures he had of it. I was actually relieved to hear that for him because he can hopefully start to fix the situation he got himself in. I really do want the best for my ex and I don't know the thought process that led to him getting this truck, or what could have influenced him, but hopefully he can get back to where he was and make more improvements. The relationship is finished and there is no hope of rekindling anything. Even though he returned the truck, I could never go back to him because the trust is gone. It wasn't only the money. It was also him making such a vital decision without me, expecting me to go along with it and then vilifying me when I had viable concerns. I can't move past that. Yes, money isn't everything, but I can't stop thinking about what my life would be like now had I stayed. My student loans would not be paid off. We would both be broke. We would both be in worse off financial positions. All of these things would have affected the relationship negatively, which would have made it unhealthy. I'm glad we broke up and I have forgiven him for what he tried to do to me. I stand and I will continue to stand by the view that finances are a breakable offense, especially when your partner isn't listening to you and does something that will affect both of you. If you don't agree, that's fine, but these last few months have proved that to me. So that's my longish update, and again, I really want to say thank you guys for responding to my first post. I honestly was leaning towards staying with him and not moving in, and I think in the long run, I would have been financially devastated and taken advantage right now, and because of the different opinions I read, it made me realize how bad not only the situation was, but also how bad it could get. So thanks. A very small, humble brag. I posted my paid in full student loan email on my profile, so if you want to see that you can click that post but you don't have to. Sorry, I'm just so proud of that fact. Okay, bye. Comments. Comment 1. Congratulations on paying off your loans. Glad you stuck to your decision and things working out for you. Comment 2. I can tell you what motivated or was the catalyst for his decision to buy the truck. It was you mentioning your possible raise. He always wanted the truck, but learning you'd be making more, he jumped the gun and purchased it in advance. He was betting on the raise. He didn't think of the possibility that you wouldn't get it. He thought it was a guarantee. Honestly, be glad he did it when he did. Could you imagine if he waited until you did move in together? Then you'd be more trapped due to having signed a lease with him. He would have screwed your credit, even if you couldn't help him pay for the truck. Having your name on the lease and him not paying his portion would affect you. He also would have guilted you into helping by paying more even if you still only made the same amount because he'd be struggling. I couldn't imagine if you had gotten the raise, he'd probably guilt you into keeping your second job, because then you could help him more. Glad you stuck to your decision. I get it's his money to do with as he wishes. However, he seemed to think, as did those who sided with him, that your money was his too. That he could make decisions about your money and how it was spent, but you couldn't do the same. Honestly too, you didn't try to control his decision or his money. You were controlling what happened to your money.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.